there's a millionaire in every industry. I needed to study entrepreneurship because as soon as I hit that light bulb moment, I can then take the studies of learning entrepreneurship and apply it to whatever that light bulb moment was. Not having to code switch. I've recognized that I can be able to talk to individuals like this no matter who I'm talking to.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Secrets of Silent Success. Today we have the one and only Danny Martin. How you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm learning every day. This is a good opportunity to be able to give insight, and hopefully someone can be encouraged by this insight and ultimately go do some pretty awesome things.
Cool. Let's jump right into it, right? So entrepreneurship is not something new to you, right? You're talking about fixing Xbox consoles back when you were in college at UTSA.
Very much so.
Tell me how you got into entrepreneurship and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, I really think it started just growing up in the southern sector of Dallas. Yeah. A lot of my mother just came in right now, and my family were entrepreneurs at heart. Some of them were entrepreneurs from a technical perspective. Some of them was entrepreneurs from a labor perspective, cutting yards and things like that. So that was my way to make capital during the summer, is to be with my uncles and things like that. So being in the lawn trucks with them all day for 8 hours a day, I get a chance to hear their stories. And it was just like going to a barbershop, but you're making money and you're doing some at that point very intense work. Sure. But I loved it, because it was just like, at a young age, 13, 14, 15, I'm making capital.
There you go.
So that's really where my book for that of entrepreneurship came from. I remember them saying like entrepreneurship, and I didn't quite know the term. And so I was like, what is that? And they'll explain it. And I knew going into college that's something I really wanted to further pursue. Because I also knew, like, my mom used to always tell me, she said, there's a millionaire in every industry. And, I got a chance to be able to see their actual industries. And I was like, I may not want to own a bunch of, this is hard work, let me see if I can do something technical, and build a global company. And at that point, that was where I was really focused in on going to college and saying, we got to figure out. So I just didn't know what the actual industry that I would be in college. I just knew that I needed to study entrepreneurship because as soon as I hit that light bulb moment, I can then take the studies of learning entrepreneurship and apply it to whatever that light bulb moment was.
Yeah. So tell me about that light bulb moment. How do we get to the STEM part of it? How do we get to the technical part? And how do we get to Esposure, where we are today?
Yeah, for sure. Fast forward, I was literally in the actual dorm rooms fixing individuals' consoles, and I started to recognize, like, when you give me your console, there's so many different games that individuals play, and I would cross market that to actively say, hey, if you gave me your console and it was Street Fighter in it, and there was multiple individuals that gave me a console with Street Fighter in it, I can start to say, hey, I'm gonna host a Street Fighter tournament, go talk to your friend, tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you host a tournament and it's a prize purse for $100, and you're charging individuals $20, and you get 20 individuals, you just made, some
money.
Good off of that from a profit perspective. And so that was how I looked at it. But I quickly recognized that when you run a tournament, you just can't run it by yourself.
Sure.
You need a team to do that. And it wasn't like you could just come to Monster and Indeed in 2010, 2011 and find someone with 2 years or 10 years in esports experience.
So, wasn't even an industry.
Nobody was calling it at that point. So, it forced, me to develop individuals to do this, brackets and software upgrades and put flyers out across the actual campus. And that's when I knew that I can only teach for so long, but if I can create a technological platform, it can actually give power to other individuals to impact other individuals, create more tournament organizers just based off of me just saying, hey, I'm gonna show you. And a technology platform can do that. And so at that point, I was just like, well, how do you create a technology platform? And I got a chance to, my professor took liking to me because I was creating a company on campus. It's almost like that dorm room, started at your garage type of entrepreneur. And she was like, I know the perfect places you need to be. And it was actually Silicon Valley. And she identified someone there that really just raised a bunch of capital, several millions. And he took me in. He said, hey, because you know Dr. Nuffel, I'm really fond of her as an entrepreneurship educator. She really taught me a lot from his perspective. And I'll bring you into my company and I'll teach you the ropes. I won't just kind of bring you in as like a one position, but I will allow you to see all the positions.
An apprentice almost.
Apprentice,
there
right?
You go. Yeah.
And that was really, really powerful for me because coming from the southern sector of Dallas, I was the only African American in that tech startup where individuals were coming from MIT and Carnegie Mellon and Intuit and other companies that I'm like, whoa, do I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be here? And that's when I really started to understand the term imposter syndrome, where I'm like,
do I belong?
Do I belong? Do I belong? And I remember a very intense moment happened when we created a process flow that was similar to today's Facebook's sponsored post. And we worked with Facebook. Our investors were Excel partners, same investors that invested in actual Facebook. And at that point, we were using Facebook to showcase some of our actual technology and our services that we were selling. And Facebook looked at that and then created sponsored posts. So our users were like, nah, we don't need you guys no more. We're just gonna go straight to Facebook, because if we're paying you guys for advertising, then we gotta still pay Facebook. There's no point, And it killed our whole business model. And it was at a point where our investors at the time had to deconsolidate, had to take our team and make it and shrink it. And it came to a point where, everyone, that I was connected with there were laid off. And at that point, my CEO came and said, hey, there's a reason why you're here. The investors wanted you here for a specific reason. And I never knew, but in my mind, I was told that, oh, you're really good at this. And I'm thinking that, and I feel like that today. But ultimately, he said, just, this is hard for you. Go and come out, get some drinks for us. And just so happened, I went to the actual bar where the individuals who got laid off were at. And then one individual was like, you know why you're here, right? And I was like, because I'm good at what I do. And it was like, no, it's affirmative action. And I was just like, what? I just went home and I just cried, with the perspective of like, is this why I'm here? But at the same sense, I told myself like, no, I'm not going to let that impact me. I'm going to really be able to showcase that I'm supposed to be here because of my skill, because of my grit, because of the elements of that I have in regards to impacting other individuals. And I can do that through technology. And so I always left San Francisco with the perspective of coming and taking all that knowledge, bringing it back to our actual community and doing it in an industry that I know, and that's gaming and esports. And so because I knew the elements of building a tech company, technology, the financial elements and everything, I was really focused in on, building a company that can ultimately be deemed as valuable for the actual community. And when you think about esports and gaming, it's kind of like this thought process of that. You're just sitting there at your home and you're not doing anything but just wasting time. But I also recognized in college that I was actually giving individuals jobs by hosting tournaments and things like that. So I had a purview that most people didn't have. And I knew that if we have a particular community where individuals have the opportunities to go hip hop or go play professional sports, there's data that says if you go do this, you're going to get a scholarship, or you can go to the NBA and you can look at individuals who have nice cars and get a lot of money, but you don't have that type of data when it comes down to gaming and esports. So I really wanted to be able to utilize this community, utilize this opportunity to talk to our community about those opportunities that I see within the gaming industry. And there was no better way than to actually build out a location here in our community. So therefore, students, parents, educators, superintendents, community leaders, all can be able to understand the impact of this industry and how it can actually provide jobs not only for the gaming and esports industry, but for other industries alike that are looking at the skills that students are developing to be able to find them as a next pipeline of talent.
Yeah, absolutely. You said a lot there that I want to dissect. But one of the things that I want to talk about is the viability of the esports industry, right? So we've done media work with orgs down in Austin, OTK, and I mean these guys on Twitch are making $6,000-$7,000 a night. They're signing 7-figure deals with Twitch. There is viability as a career within the gaming industry. What do you tell the parent who just sees their child playing the game like you and I were probably doing, right? What do you tell them that, hey, this could actually be a career path for them?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the first things I let a parent know is the actual data of the industry. So currently right now, the gaming industry is approximately about $150 billion industry. Wow. It's actually the largest sector of entertainment amongst that of movies and also music combined. So music and movies combined, it's that of gaming industry is even larger than that. And ultimately, when you think about the esports industry, esports is 1% of the actual gaming industry. And the reason why that is that back in the day when Pong was existing, you couldn't really identify someone from across the country who was much better at Pong. You couldn't. It's that understanding of the difficulties of the game was just not as present that it is now. You can easily determine someone who's good at Fortnite, like the best of the best in the world. And so it's actually now a badge of a developer to have an esports title, because now if you're good at Fortnite, you have hundreds of thousands of individuals that are watching you, like Booga winning 3 million. When parents heard that you won 3 million, a 16-year-old, it caught wind, it caught articles. People are talking about it. They know about it. They don't know Booga. They may not know Fortnite, but they hear $3 million at 16 years of age. So being able to leverage that data to that of parents to say, hey, this person has done it. But most importantly, in order for this person to win $3 million, they didn't have to just be good at the game. They had to stream. They had to create a brand. And ultimately, when you're looking to be able to create a brand, you have to understand like what equipment and what channels you need to be able to create that brand. You have to create, you have to get a computer. You have to stream on that computer. You have to stream through Twitch or YouTube. You have to engage with your fans, so professional speaking. You have to create overlays and graphics to be able to shine out to, hey, come watch my stream.
You're a video producer and all of that.
You're all of it. You're the gamer, video producer, you're all of it when it comes down to it. So I talk to parents and saying, like, hey, if Timmy does not make it as a Booga at $3 million at 16 years of age, but he goes through the processes of actually trying to go that route, he's built skill sets in this new gig economy world where you can get paid for creating someone's graphics. You can get paid for doing videography and photography. So ultimately, they're actually utilizing this industry to develop their skill sets. So therefore, they can be valuable to any company in any industry, because any industry and any company is going to need these same skill sets.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like to say my gaming PC is not a gaming PC. It is a money-making PC. Like whether it's Photoshop, Adobe, when people were mining Bitcoin, that PC can do so many things.
It can do so
much
to
to make you money and have a career. I would also ask you, when it comes to exposure, you talk about engaging, right? You talk about entertainment, but you also say education, right? You do a lot of boot camps and summer camps. Talk about the education part of what you're doing here.
Yeah, man, I love it. For us, we were first starting to create a technology platform for tournament organizing. And then when COVID hit, we recognized that we had a facility and individuals weren't coming into facilities anymore. And at the same time, when individuals were not coming into facilities, actual companies like ESPN or companies that wanted to do or was planning to do conferences, they now were forced to do virtual conferences. And so in the esports industry, we always do that regardless. We do virtual events and like that's streaming, that's production. And so we started to get a lot of looks in regards to running events. Like even we did an event on ESPN when there was no traditional sports. We were doing it. We were showcasing our gaming on that platform, and it quickly recognized to us is that that's a way for us to get some revenue. This is ultimately showcasing the actual gaming and esports industry as an industry that didn't get impacted as much by COVID, but actually increased by COVID. So ultimately, this is a great way for us to be able to speak to that of educators about the impact of this industry. And at the same time, educators were more so like, our students are virtual. How do we engage with them? And ultimately, we were in that position to where if they had opportunities to be able to give to their students for like programs and support, they would typically go to that of farms or medical or hospitals and things like that. And it was a great way for us to be able to do virtual courses and have virtual content to provide to the actual educators. So that was our first element where we were like, all right, let's use this actual space to create content, but it's also build a technology platform that the actual educators can use in regards to that of a learning management system that they naturally use in like Canvas or Teachable or Schoology. We wanted to create an actual learning management system for that of the esports and gaming industry. And then when that happened, that's when our first yes, we can be able to do this because schools are asking for it from this point. So we understood that, we were a competitive company at first, like focused on helping gamers, have the resources and access to get to the next level from a professional perspective. But we quickly recognized like during that time, we needed to change our whole business model to education to adhere more to the educators, because for them, they were kind of like, it's kind of skeptical. Like, what is gaming and esports? Do I want to be having my kids just play games all day? That's not teaching them anything. So we really had to change our whole business, our whole branding to fit towards the educational model. So therefore we can make it easy, so it can be easier when we come down to approach educators about the impacts of the industry. Plus, we always knew that even back then, we still have to develop individuals, and the next talent pipeline is going to come from middle school, high school, and colleges. And so that wasn't existing. And even to this day, it's growing fast. But your professional esports organizations, they have to find the next talent pipeline. And if it's not in schools, where are they finding it? They're going to Twitter or Instagram, and they're going into somebody's DM, and it's like, hey, I give you a salary contract. But they didn't go through that same development process that Luka did when he was in middle school, and he got coached to the high school, and then he got groomed to that of the pros. You just went and found a 16-year-old and DM'd them and gave him $100,000, and now you're expecting that 16-year-old to go into a gaming house and actually, communicate and live with other individuals who have never had that experience. So now these pro organizations become glorified babysitters versus just focusing on making sure that actual athlete in your team is successful in the competitions. And so we are in charge of making that development pipeline. And the best way to do that is establish the programs in the schools.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. You talk about a development pipeline, and then you correlated to sports, right? You got the youth league, you got the Pee Wee football, you got the AAU. This is AAU, right? But for the esports, I would ask you this, right? Since you correlated to sports, we're in Duncanville, we're in the south side of Dallas, right? Sports, music, especially when it comes to Black and brown people, that's what we care about. We care about gaming, but not from the education and the STEM perspective. I would ask you, what challenges have you had within the community saying like, hey, we have to go with STEM? I think less than 5% of the esports industry are Black and brown people,
for
right? So tell me a little bit about the challenges of working within the community to say like, hey, this is a viable outlet so we can fill those pipelines with Black and brown kids.
Man, it is so challenging. I tell you this, I knew it was going to be difficult coming here just due to the fact that our schools in this area are faced with so many challenges already. Trying to bring something else new to them is almost like, we'll get to it when we get to it. While if you're more in affluent areas, you have more resources to try new things.
Yeah, they got coding council everywhere.
They can do it, right? So I knew, and our team knew, that it was just going to take patience. And even to this day, we're here with 7 independent school districts in this area, and we have just now been able to tackle half of them. Where over 2 years' time, it's like little events here and field trips there and programming there, but getting them to establish their programs and it's self-sufficient for them. Like our North Star is when a school can actually run their own programs and their students are doing it, that's when like they're good. Right now, we're not there, and because of the elements of resources are low, there's skepticism. Like superintendents come to us in these particular schools and they're like, all right, I believe, but I got to get 13 other individuals to believe. And if one of them don't believe, then everything just falls, you know? And so then it's this process of trying to get everyone in the actual systems to understand the impact that esports can have on STEM. When I think about actual STEM, I think about sports. Anytime that you're playing a basketball game or a football game, the actual AV team, shoots content about that football team or basketball team. The graphics team actually creates graphics runs flyers all around the building about this actual game. There's videographers. There's all the actual sections, the career pathways in schools, they support the basketball team. And when you think about esports is the best way to support all of those actual career pathways because it's digital competition, it's software based. You have to be very technologically gifted to be able to compete in such of a capacity that 95% of it is software based. When you think about chess or checkers, or let's say chess, you think of the smartest people in the world that are playing chess. When you think of esports, you should think of it the same way, even more so because these games are developed in such a capacity that you have to be very technologically savvy in order to be the best of the best at that game. So you have to have principles of physics, games like Rocket League. In order to be good, you're not only playing on a court, you're actually having a vehicle that's being projected up in the air, bouncing off of walls. You have to understand physics a little bit to be able to do that. And that's different than playing FIFA, So when you think about it, these games are so dynamically programmed that STEM is just naturally embedded inside of it when it comes down to educator. And when the educator comes into this building, we built this building in a way that it aligns with their career pathways. And so when they walk in there, they're saying AV broadcasting. Oh, we do this at our school. All right, this is shoutcasting. It's just another different word for commentating, but they can understand. And then they can say production. Oh, you guys do production. This is how this event looks like, so we got people in our AV programs that want to do this type of production. We do it already with our basketball teams. So they get a chance to see all the different elements that applies with STEM. And then for us, we run programs that are STEM related. So therefore we put the actual students in positions to where they assume the roles of running their own organizations, where they're the general managers or the head coaches or the marketing specialists or the production technicians or the software developers, and they get a chance to compete in the same lens as CTSOs, which are, the DECAs or the Skills USAs that schools are recognizing, where these, awesome, brilliant individual students are traveling all the world competing on who can create the best business plan, right? That's STEM all in, all around. And for us to be able to do that from an esports lens is great because those same students that are building these business plans around building the esports organization, they're no different than the FaZe clans that started in high school and college. That's now a $1 billion organization.
I went to FaZe clan production studio in LA. It's wild.
It's wild. It's wild. So they're doing it. They're starting at this path. Why can't we actually give them the access and tools? And when an educator comes into this building, they're able to say, wow, okay, I see how this can be STEM related. And even on another level than STEM, it's actually STEAM. And STEAM, and the A in STEAM is arts. For our particular community, arts is everything, right? So when you actually bring esports into the arts element, and individuals can say, I don't have to be a developer, I don't have to know code, but I can show my creativity, I can shoutcast, I can create graphics, I can create some awesome video content. That A becomes even more critical to esports.
So you talked about the art part of it, you talked about the production, you've also mentioned the intellectual part. All of this is between the ears, right? So we've talked about, hey, this is what I'm saying to the educators. What are we saying to the students? Because again, here in South Dallas, DeSoto just won a state championship. Duncanville just won a state championship. I wasn't going to get taller than 5'7", no matter how hard I tried, right? So sports wasn't going to be for me. What are we saying to these students, to these young gamers, like, hey, what's between your ears? You can continue to cultivate and refine that and do something with it. You're not going to get taller than 5'7".
For sure. I think it's, I always use the examples of like, if I'm a surgeon, I'm getting into my room, my operating room, putting my gloves on, and then, you know, I have a controller device in my hand, and it's a camera. And in that camera, I'm utilizing this camera to take this camera up through my actual patient's body, and I'm looking at it through my device to identify where I'm going to start the surgery on. And at that point, that individual doctor, that surgeon, is using the device to control. When I get in an actual plane, I'm using the yoke to control. When I'm at an office, I'm using a keyboard. So ultimately, all of those tactics, if I was an architectural or engineering firm, I will be looking at students that are competing in Fortnite or that of Minecraft as way they're building foundations. And so I'm looking at that as the next pipeline of talent, and ultimately being able to tell students that you're actually, if you're good at this, you're doing things that are naturally advancing your opportunity to be valuable to an actual company, whether that's Raytheon, whether that's Google, whether that's Microsoft, whether that's any of these companies. They're actively looking for your actual talent. So I always tell individuals, the likelihood of you going pro is less than 1%, but the industry right now is looking for individuals to be able to support them behind the actual controller, because the industry is growing really, really fast. And you think of an actual company like a FaZe Clan that started with 50 employees, and then they get upwards of $1 billion valuation. Now they need 500 employees. And where are they going to find those employees if the ecosystems are not developed? So for us, when we talking to students, it's like, you are the person that's going to be developing the ecosystem. You know, you're going to be the ones that's going to help those actual companies, you know, drive more value and help increase the valuation of the gaming and esports industry. So it's really just understanding, like, what you're doing already as you're playing games, you're already passionate at doing it, and you're developing unconsciously. So let me give you some information on how you can take those skills that you developed and actually go to somewhere else. For an example, 2 years ago, there was approximately about 25 colleges that offered esports scholarships. Today, there's over 700 colleges that offer esports scholarships. What that means is these colleges are recognizing that, one, they have to have these programs, so therefore they can actually have recruitment, which increases their bottom line, because people are getting skeptical about college. So they want to have better programs that are engaging. The second thing is they understand that they have to send those students out to get jobs in order to showcase the value of the organization or the institution. And these jobs are actively looking at going to those colleges and saying, we want to be able to recruit, right? So they naturally are going to say, let me go build an esports program. It seems attractive right now. So being able to talk to those students in regards to that, what's transpiring in the industry based off of our purview, is the best way that we're being able to give them information and letting them say, go take this information to your parents or your community, and then they can go and do their own research based off the industry. Because most of the time that we see, people just don't know here. You know, we're not giving it, we're not putting it in their actual face as much as we need to. So it's our job to actually do that. And the best way is just to wrangle individuals and bring them on here, be like, here it is, you know, now go leave and go spread your wings, you know. So it's a really, really cool thing, you know. I think another thing is, for both students and parents, we showcase our full circle moment. So before we even started Esposure, I had a 2,000 square foot loft in downtown Dallas that I converted into a space that looks like this, but it was my home. And that's when we allowed competitive gamers to actually come in and compete. And that was before the NBA 2K League. And 2 years after that, we had several individuals actually get drafted in the 2K League once it was announced. One of those individuals was named by Dayfry Ryan Congner. And he was out of Waxahachie. And, you know, he went on to win 2 championships of the NBA 2K League at $2 million prize purses each, right? Wow. Just recently this year, he retired as a professional gamer, and now he's the head coach of the Mavericks. So when we speak on it this weekend, he's coming back here in the facility as the head coach of the Mavericks, competing in the same place that he started at, right? So when we talk to a parent and an actual student, it's like, here's this full circle moment. This person was in grassroots. He got an opportunity. He excelled in the opportunity because not only he was good at the actual game, but he was a good human. And then he allowed him to impact his team, in which allowed him to go win millions of dollars, and which allowed him to retire and help his family. And now he's a coach giving back to his community and his team. And he's ultimately saying, I want to bring it back home. So now we can tell a parent or a student that this can be you.
Sure. Wow. Man, I honestly, maybe I'm a biased gamer and video producer, but I think this has been the most applicable episode that I've recorded. But I think I'm a little biased. But to end it off, this is called the Secrets to Silent Success podcast. So you talk about from fixing consoles on campus to now having this platform, this technology, this. I don't know, man.
It's ecosystem,
this ecosystem, like in South Dallas, it's bigger than you, man. It's helping so many people. Yeah. What has been your secret to success?
Oh, I think not having to code switch. I've recognized that I can be able to talk to individuals like this no matter who I'm talking to, right? I don't care if they're white, I don't care if they're Asian, I don't care if they're African American. My personality is my personality, whether I was this way when I was in hood schools and they looked at me like, you a nerd, and that was sometimes frightening because you get tested a lot. But also at the same sense, you know, I am myself and I don't have to act someone that's different. And I think people have recognized that I am myself no matter what room I'm in. And that becomes a great opportunity to engage with individuals. I build better relationships like that, long-term relationships. And I'm able to build an ecosystem of individuals for the duration of my time and showcasing my growth over the whole journey. And that has been the biggest reason for my success, is really being able to stay grounded as an individual, leveraging that of my lack of resources prior to say, hey, you don't have to have a lot of resources. You just got to be efficient and resourceful. And at that point, really, in being able to showcase that and being true about the fact that you don't have it all, gains a lot of support from individuals from a authentic perspective. And you tend to make really long-term partnerships and friendships, and it can transpire in your actual personal life, and it also transpire in your actual your business life. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I feel that I'm going to be successful for a long time, due to the fact that I've been the same way as I was when I was young.
Oh, yeah. We'll leave it right there. Yeah, I appreciate you. We'll do this again sometime, brother.
For sure, definitely, for sure. This is awesome.
This was super cool. So I appreciate you all for watching this episode of Secrets to Silent Success. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.